Errol Spence called out Keith Thurman to make a showdown this summer, a fight that the fans should have got about 6 or 7 years ago. Finally, we can make it happen. Let's talk about that in this video. But before we do that, make sure you hit my like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not already subbed to the channel. So yesterday, we got some very disappointing news about Keith Thurman. We know Keith Thurman for being out of the ring way more than he's in the ring fighting. But Keith Thurman, he can sell the hell out of his fight. He just can't make it to one. And now Keith Thurman had to pull out of the fight with Tim Tszyu. Keith Thurman was moving up in weight to fight Tim Tszyu, and everybody was excited about this fight because, like I said, Keith Thurman, he can sell you on the fight. When the boxing world first heard that Keith Thurman was fighting Tim Tszyu, everybody was shocked. They was confused. We didn't know what to think about it. But immediately, most boxing fans started saying, Keith Thurman don't have no chance. He gonna get knocked the F out. And then Keith Thurman got to running his mouth, doing his promos and selling the fight. And Keith Thurman actually sold a lot of people that this was gonna be a very close competitive fight. You even had a lot of people thinking that Keith Thurman was gonna be able to outbox and upset Tim Tszyu. But the fight got called off because once again, Keith Thurman is injured. Keith Thurman is very familiar with injuries. I mean, he's had to sit out 3 years, come back, sit out another 2 years, come back, sit out another 2 years. So Keith Thurman is always injured. But one mega fight that the fans wanted to see for years and years, and we actually thought we was going to get it back in 2022, was Keith Thurman versus Errol Spence. Another fighter who is always injured. Errol Spence and Keith Thurman, for some reason, they just got the worst luck. We know that Errol Spence, man, ever since he had that car wreck, he's had injury after injury. But the difference between Errol Spence, he'll go into a fight injured. And we have a lot of speculation and a lot of people saying that he went into that Terrence Crawford fight with several injuries. He broke his ribs in training camp. He had a cataracts, but, you know, he still went into the fight. He got destroyed. And it is what it is. Both of them are always injured. And now, what needs to happen, the only fight that makes sense is Keith Thurman versus Errol Spence. Errol Spence, we haven't heard nothing from EJ in a while now. He don't really say too much at all, especially after he took that L to Terrence Crawford. But he needs to come out and call out Keith Thurman. Yes, Keith Thurman just suffered an injury. It's a bicep tear, I believe it is. Keith Thurman, it's a 4 to 6 week, rehab and healing process. Keith Thurman will be ready in July. Errol Spence will be ready in July. Let's make it happen. Keith Thurman versus Errol Spence. What else fight is there to make? We already know that Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, that fight is pretty much over and done with. You know what I'm saying? Who else can Errol Spence fight that has a name in the sport right now, right? That's not too big of a risk. He's still on the even playing field with. And I say an even playing field because once again, Keith Thurman is always injured. He's been out. He's had long ass layoffs. Errol Spence, always injured. He's been out. He's had layoff after layoff. So you put them in the ring against each other to where you don't have to put neither one of them in with a tune-up, no name type of opponent. They can fight each other. They can sell a lot of tickets. It'll be a big fight still. Not as big as it would have been back in the day, but it's still a big fight. They still can make big money, and they can potentially get themselves ready to fight Bud Crawford. The winner can go on and fight Bud because we heard recently that Bud has put in the petition to fight the winner between Tim Tszyu and Sebastian Fundora. Now, if you ask me, I think Tim Tszyu is going to stop Fundora. And then we're going to see Crawford and Tim Tszyu, a fight that Crawford wanted anyway. And I believe that Crawford, he'll get past Tim Tszyu. And then we can set it up. The winner of the Keith Thurman and Errol Spence, they can fight Bud Crawford. I mean, it don't get no better than that. What else can you ask for? If you ask me, that's perfect matchmaking. And only thing that needs to happen is Errol Spence, he has to come out and he got to let it be known by calling out Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman, he's called out Errol Spence on several occasions. Of course, you know, a lot of people believe that Keith Thurman ducked Errol Spence back in the day. Some people believe that, some people don't. I've already gave my opinion on that situation plenty of times. I'm not going to go back into all of that. But it's a different day. It's a different time. And they need to fight each other now, you know, because if you put Errol Spence in at 154 with any of these young, hungry Lions, you're taking a big, huge risk because he's had all of these injuries. He's been out of the sport for a long time, right? And then if you put Keith Thurman in with one of these hungry Lions, you're taking a huge risk for him also. And the thing with Keith Thurman and Errol Spence, right? If they don't fight within the next year, I'll say within the next 6 months, they might as well just hang it up. Especially Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman, he has to take this Errol Spence fight, right? If this fight comes to fruition, if it comes up, Keith Thurman gonna have to take this fight. Because if he don't, PBC not gonna give him no more fights. He pretty much can hang it up, and Keith Thurman, he can't afford to be out of the sport another year or a year and a half or another 2 years. Errol Spence, he can't afford to be out of boxing another year and a half, 2 years. This is the perfect matchup to me. You know what I'm saying? Now, I still will take Errol Spence. But at this point in time, we don't know what Spence is going to look like. We don't know what Keith Thurman going to look like. I said, they both hurt up. You know what I'm saying? But Errol Spence is the younger fighter. Errol Spence does have, man, I ain't gonna say he got the better resume because Keith Thurman got a hell of a resume himself. You know, I'll say they resumes is neck and neck. But I think this is a great fight, man. Errol Spence, he don't like Keith Thurman. And so I think that the build up to this fight will be great also. It all depends on how fast Keith Thurman can heal from this torn bicep injury. He should be ready by the summertime, July, August. If he's ready by July, make it happen. Come July, Errol Spence will be out of the ring a year because that's when he fought Terrence Crawford in July. And we already know Keith Thurman, man. We ain't even got to talk about how long he's been out of the ring. But yeah, I love the fight. Let me know what y'all think about the fight. Do y'all think this is a great matchup? Errol Spence versus Keith Thurman, both coming off of injuries, stepping in the ring, finally giving us a mega fight that we should have had about 6-7 years ago. Let me know. Drop a comment in the comment section. Make sure y'all hit my like button, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subbed. And y'all already know how I do. There you go, talking that boxing again, and I'm gone.
Down, yeah. Leaning to the right with the bass up now.